Hey guys, it's Kelsey and I'm here with the scrapbooking process video. But first, before we get into the process, I just wanted to talk a little bit about finding your mojo. So a couple months ago, Leah and I and a couple other creators had a really good discussion on one of our Facebook groups about how we go about finding our mojo when we're kind of feeling stuck, when we haven't been creative in a while and we just need something to kind of get our juices flowing again. I've talked about this a couple times on some of my tag videos about how I like to find my mojo. I've always recommended Mercy Tiara's playlist that she did with scrapbooking cards today. She's got 10 different prompts on finding your mojo. And I know Leah's working a lot with that recently on following those prompts to kind of revitalize her mojo and give you some inspiration if you find any of those tips helpful. I am going to do a couple lessons this month about how I like to go about finding my mojo. I might be incorporating some of what Mercy Tiara has done with her prompts. But the first one I really wanted to do was something that she hasn't mentioned in any of hers, and that was finding a mood board. I thought initially finding a mood board and using it for scrapbooking would just be too difficult. I couldn't really wrap my head around it, and although I really liked looking at mood boards, it was really hard for me to try and use them for a scrapbook page to find my inspiration, really translate it into a page. So I thought this would be a really fun opportunity for me to walk through how I kind of started to use them. And now that I kind of can grasp how to translate it into a page, I really do lean on them to find inspiration when I'm feeling stuck. And so I'm hoping this is something that you can do too. And I really like this type of prompt because you can use an endless amount of mood boards and always get something different. So it's something you can revisit however many times you want, and it's never really going to get stale if this process works for you. So you can use any search engine you want. I really love Pinterest. Obviously, it's picture photo based, so it's really easy for me to find something I'm looking for. If you have a color scheme in mind or products in mind, you can always kind of lean your mood board towards that kind of theme. For me, I literally just typed in mood boards, and mood boards aesthetic was the first thing that came up, and I just picked it and started scrolling through. So I've saved a couple of the ones that really grabbed my attention. This one I really love, lots of neutrals, and I hope you can kind of see as we're looking through them ways you can incorporate this into a scrapbook page. This would be a really great neutral page with little pops of green, and you don't even have to take it. I mean, this is what I love about mood boards. You can kind of take as much or as little as you want. You can literally look up mood boards for the color swatch and nothing else. For this, I definitely love all the tone-on-tone neutrals, all of the textures, and the pop of green. But if you look at this and you get an idea to do a tone-on-tone super neutral page with a pop of a color, it doesn't even have to be green, then that's another idea you can run with. This is purely to get you some inspiration, to get you started. So take as much or as little as you want from this. But I loved this for that reason. Here I thought was a really beautiful monochromatic pink. I think this would be a really fun opportunity to go through your stash and pull out everything pink and do a monochromatic page. Maybe pull in pops of rose gold or pops of silver if you want to take it that way. But again, just another really fun one that you could take in a lot of different ways. Just looking at this mood board, you could pick any color and just use this as your starting point to do a fun monochromatic page. This one I loved purely just for the color scheme, not really anything in the pictures, but you'll see this on a lot of mood boards where they'll give you kind of a collage, but they will extract from the collage all of the colors that is kind of inspired by it. So even though I'm not really drawn to this mood board, I think this color scheme is really, really beautiful between the aquas and the tans and the oranges. So sometimes I'll use it just for color. Here's another one I really liked with the greens and all the textures, more neutral. And then this is the one I landed on finally. When I first looked at it, I was like, wow, there's a lot going on. I like all the different textures. And what really grabbed me was this kind of, I don't know, it could just read any kind of season. It almost read fall to me because of the burnt orange, but there's a lot of ocean themed things with the mint and the kind of teal, and there's this dark green of the orange leaves. And so I really was drawn to this because there is a lot of texture, but I really liked this color combination. So I'm gonna go through my stash with this on the table so you can kind of see how I've pulled together my products for this page based on the mood board. So I'm just gonna set this aside. As I started going through my stash, which granted I don't have a very big stash, but one of the things that I found first was a text paper. So I found this one's from Heidi Swapp's Pineapple Crush, and I really felt like this text pattern that was within the mood board really resonated on this paper. I also like it because the B side is an aqua polka dot. So I really could go either way with this. I grabbed it for the text, but if I need some of this aqua, I can always pull that in. But I grabbed this for the text because I really felt like that kind of grabbed me on the mood board, even though I usually wouldn't go towards this paper initially. I'm just gonna roll with it. Just grab everything that reminds you of the mood board. You don't have to use it all on your page, but go ahead and grab it so you have it, because a lot of things you're not really drawn to and you might not want to use, once you see it pulled in with everything else, that could almost turn into your favorite thing about the page. So just bear with me. Pull anything from your stash that reminds you of your mood board, because you like this mood board for a reason, and it's because all of that stuff is pulled together, so it might end up being an important element. So I have this. I also love all the different tones of green. It almost goes from this mint into this deep green and almost a teal. So I did remember I have a whole bunch of vellum that Ronnie just sent me. I have some from Karen too. I actually believe these 2 sheets are from Karen, because she sent me a bunch of nice deep solid papers. So I have this more minty green one, but I also have this deeper green, almost teal. So I'm gonna pull both of these in. Again, I might use both, I might use one. I don't have to use either of them, but I'm pulling them in because this is giving me kind of the feel of the greens from the mood board. Next thing I really wanted to dive into was the burnt orange. I really don't have any burnt orange in my stash. The closest thing I could find was this kind of corally color, so I'm gonna roll with it. Because I don't have a lot of orange in my page, I might just lean into this color instead of the burnt orange, even though I really like this mood board because of the burnt orange. I'm just gonna pull it, we're gonna see what happens. But there's a nice pop of color. When I got to this point, I was seeing how there's a lot of solids, and this is my only pattern, and it's kind of a busy pattern, so I kind of wanted to look into some other elements on this page that can give me some pattern, but not so busy as this text. There is kind of a bed on a wooden platform. There's this kind of woven bag over here that's kind of a twine basket look, but this is kind of giving me wood grain vibes. So I did just go through my stash. I have a scrap of wood grain. I have several sheets of wood grain. I just pulled this one because I feel like this lighter tone is very similar to what's in the mood board, but if this isn't working or I need a larger sheet, I can always just pull one from my stash. So I'm gonna pull this for now. I like this introduction of a more warmer, subtle pattern to kind of break up some of the solid. And because I was kind of leaning into this woven texture of this basket, I wonder if I could blow it up for you. I remember I had a scrap of burlap that a friend sent me as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this in. I think this can be a fun texture element. And it also kind of, it's a solid color, but it breaks up the solid of all of these like things that are smooth color and don't have texture. So I have the burlap there too. From there, I'm kind of trying to figure out, I need to kind of figure out, I guess, my photos. You really don't have to think about your photos initially, unless you just want to. And that's another thing. If you have a specific photo you want to scrapbook, you can look at colors from that photo and kind of pull up a mood board that's already inspired by that. But I did kind of know I wanted to scrapbook Thanksgiving of last year, so I have these photos here. And once I pulled them out, I kind of thought, you know, this coral color might actually work better than the burnt orange I was going to use, because it is pretty similar to my shirt. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these out too, just so I can start thinking about my photos and things I want to kind of go with them. But from there, I thought, okay, I have a good mix of paper. I probably will want some more paper. But this is looking pretty good as far as my mood board goes. So I kind of want to start thinking about other elements I can pull in. I got this cool burlap piece, but I want some other things I could embellish with that are going to kind of be exciting and interesting. So I went through my stash from Ronnie, and she sent me a couple really cool things. I have some more of these really cute little tan crochet flowers. I thought those could add some good texture, and it's kind of in this light wood grain tone. I also have these really cool, she sent me these die cuts of a cross section of a wood trunk, or a tree trunk, I'm sorry. She kind of showed me where you can ink them and that's really cool, but I might incorporate some of these on the page. I'm gonna go ahead and just throw them in, but this again kind of reminds me of this woven basket element a little bit. Again, like I might not use any of this stuff, but I'm pulling it out because having it out will help me. If I wanna use it, it's there. So I'm going to have that. And lastly from Ronnie, I have this really cool mint ribbon that I think would be really pretty with all of these products. So I'm gonna pull that as well. I went through my stash and I pulled out some washi. I've really gotten away from using washi, but I figured this is a color scheme and I kind of have washi in this color scheme, so I'm gonna go and pull it in case I do want to use it. I have this kind of green vine. I love, like my favorite part of this mood board is this really beautiful kind of acrylic pour. It almost looks like an ocean, but it's got those burnt oranges in it, and I really like this one because it kind of has that marbly effect. So I have that one with my vine, and I have a couple solids. Again, if I go with this more coral color, I probably won't use the orange, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull it just in case. I also have kind of this hunter green that matches Marcus's shirt. And then I did just pull this really skinny teal washi that has some really cute little gold stars on it, just because some of these greens do kind of lean into that tealy blue color scheme. So I'm just gonna pull it, might not use it, but I'm gonna have it out. I feel like I don't have a huge stash, so the more I can pull to start with that gives me a cohesive vibe based off of the mood board, the better I am when I start going in and playing with it. So that's a couple fun things. And then I did go through my stash and I just pulled out some enamel dots. If I could find some more burnt orange, I would really love to use these, but if I go more down this coral path, I do have some kind of pinky ones, or I could even go down like these little greeny aqua ones. So I do have some enamel dots I pulled, and then I just got some Happy Mail from Lisa. So I am going to include these as well. There's really beautiful kind of like gem embellishments. I love these little puffy hearts. As well as some of these wood veneer elements. I don't quite know what I'm gonna use, or if I'll be able to squeeze them on here with, it kind of depends. I have no idea design wise what I'm gonna do. But I'm gonna include these as well because I see different elements on here, especially with all these different colored hearts. There's burnt orange, there's kind of the coral, there's also this green that goes really, really well. So depending on what I end up doing, but I'm gonna pull them in. And then this is kind of as far as I've gotten. As I'm looking at all of this, it looks like a lot of this stuff doesn't look like it'll go together, but sometimes those create the most fun pages. But I did kind of want to dive into my scrap stash for some additional layering bits, some additional pattern papers, because as of right now, all I have is this wood grain and this text. I know I'm going to want more, especially more patterned color, because both of these patterns are very neutral, and I know I'm going to want some pattern papers that have these colors in them and not just have these solids as the color. And I recently used this Autumn Chill collection, and I was kind of thinking as I was pulling this page together that several of these colors really do look like they come from this collection. So I'm gonna go through and just go through my scraps really quick. If I wanted to, I could definitely pull out a full 12 by 12. But I really love stash diving, and I feel like it's easier for me to create a page when I already have scraps, because a lot of times when I'm kind of stuck and I've lost my mojo, part of it's like it's really hard for me to make that first cut into a new 12 by 12. So starting with scraps that are already cut up kind of relieve me of that stress because I already have pieces to work with. So all of these, actually, I'm gonna even pull in this peachy tone if we're going away from the kind of burnt orange and more towards this kind of pinky coral. That could actually work really well. There's a couple minty aqua green tones I think will go. A lot of this collection will go, but I'm gonna try and restrain myself and not pull out everything because I do want this to kind of feel like, which granted, if you have a collection that really reminds you of a mood board, just pull out that collection and go. But I really am enjoying kind of digging from my stash and pulling in lots of things I usually don't use together, because that's kind of my favorite part about, that's kind of my favorite part about using mood boards, is it makes me go through my stash and pull things together I usually don't use together. I really like this because both of these colors really go on these cut aparts, but this is Thanksgiving and literally there's a piece here that says thankful and grateful and blessed that's in my color scheme. So I think I am going to pull this for the cut aparts. And I think I'm going to stop here for now. And if I need to pull in a full sheet of something, I know I have this paper pad I can go back to and probably find another coordinating sheet. But I just wanted to, before, I know this is kind of going to be a longer process because I am talking, kind of explaining before I even get going. But I do want to kind of show you really for this prompt specifically on getting out of jams with your Mojo, how I go about in depth with using a mood board. So hopefully it'll be easier for you if you do want to try that. But we're going to cut now. We're going to go to the process video. It's going to be a normal sped up process video, but hopefully you seeing how I use a mood board to pull this all together to create something will help you kind of try and do that too if this ends up being something you can use to find your Mojo. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll get into the process video and I'll see you soon. Hey guys, okay, so process video. I am starting with my photos. I'm just going to go ahead and glue them together. This is something I like to do when I'm kind of stuck, but I have what I kind of know is my background and a color I want prominent, is I go ahead and just matte my pattern on the solid and then gut the solid to use to like map my photo and stuff. And that's a good way to just get started on a page. A lot of times when I'm stuck, I'm just staring at everything and not doing anything. And sometimes just having this as your go-to get started thing where you mat your pattern paper on a solid and then you got the solid so you have a scrap of that already, your page is started, you've done something, which is good. So I went ahead and did that. I just gutted a bunch of the coral solid and I'm just going to use that to map my photos, so that color is also on the inside of the page around my photo since it's around the outside of the page. So that is just first thing what I'm going to do. I decided to glue these photos right next to each other because I'm in a photo with Marcus and I like that photo of me better than the photo of me in the group shot with my mom and Becca and Bennett. I'm just going to layer them so there aren't two of me, and the photo of me that I like most is the one that's showing. So you will see me kind of overlap them like that. That's just why I decided to do that. But I think this color looks really good with these photos, totally by accident, but just with the fall colored leaves and everything and my colored shirt, it was just perfect. So now that that's done, I'm kind of looking at what I've pulled out and I'm trying to look at the elements that I want to use most. I really loved this banner. I think that's a good way to go ahead and pull in that green tone I really like, the sentiment that goes with my page. So I decided just to trim it into a banner and have that hang kind of top and bottom of my photo, and you'll see how I kind of stretch that. I like to do this a lot when I have scraps that I need to look longer. You'll see me trim some parts that are going to be covered by the photo and then just tuck it at the top of the photo instead. But one of the other elements I really wanted to use was one of these sheets of vellum, and I just thought this dark teal really spoke to me more as far as the mood board went. I thought it was a really bold color and I knew I'd have a lot of layers on top of it, so I really kind of wanted that bold back layer to kind of shine through. I was worried the lighter colored mint vellum wouldn't really show up as well, and because my background with this text is so busy, I really wanted something darker that kind of helps tone that down and cover that up a little bit more. This is another technique I really like to go to when I'm stuck. I, for whatever reason, have really been enjoying doing this big banner thing. I hadn't really noticed it until I kind of flipped through some of my older albums and I was like, oh, I'm liking the big banner thing. So that's another thing you can go to when you're getting stuck. Go to one of your go-to designs, something you're comfortable with. Not every page has to be something brand new. It's okay if you repeat some things that are kind of stuff you usually like to do. This is purely just to get you started and out of a jam, so just do what you're comfortable with. I know when I first started, I really wanted every single page to be different. I really wanted to push myself to have like my own ideas and not copy anybody, and I want every page to be spectacular and different. And this is not a practical way to scrap, I've realized, at least for myself. And if you like doing something, then let yourself do it. It doesn't matter if you did it on the past 10 pages. If it's something you like to do, you like how it looks, then go for it. So that's my little piece of advice about that. I'm just trying to pull in a couple more layers here. I'm not quite sure what I want to do. I kind of want this idea where I do this L design, where I have this vertical like layer on the right, and then I pull out horizontally with a couple layers. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want to do that. I definitely want some more banners. There's a lot of that vellum teal showing, so I definitely want to cover it up a little bit. I know I have this one banner with the thankful sentiment, but I want a couple more layers behind there too, so I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do. There's this really cool cross-section tree trunk die cuts that Ronnie sent me. I definitely want to try and pull those in this month, but the pattern paper I was going to use behind that one banner was just too big, so I have a skinnier strip of this floral I think is really sweet. So I'm going to trim that into a banner as well. And I really like how this tree trunk looks in that corner between the banner and the photo. So I think I'll go back and end up putting it there. I'm thinking maybe that's where I'll put some embellishment, or maybe my title, so you can see one of those little crochet flowers I set there. That'll end up moving. But I'm just trying to get some ideas. I definitely want to pull in this burlap. I think this burlap is so cool, and it really speaks to the mood board and the textures that I really liked from my mood board. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want to incorporate it. It's a pretty small piece of burlap, and I really wanted a larger piece, so I was just trying to think through before I cut it how to make the most of it. And this is another thing I really like to do. If you're using scraps and you need a larger piece, just look at where that piece is going to be covered up, and kind of cheat the system a little bit. So you can see that little piece of burlap that was a 4x6 I cut into 4 strips. I'm going to get down my my layers where I know they're going to go, and then those burlap pieces will be glued down, and hopefully by the end it'll look like it's a lot larger piece of burlap. It almost ends up looking like an 8x8 size burlap instead of a 6x4 inch burlap by the end. So you'll kind of see that come together. And this is where you can just see I trimmed off the top of my little thankful banner and a couple other scraps, so by the end that will look as though it stretches up behind my photo a lot longer than it is. So here's the bottom piece here, and then that's the top piece I'm going to tuck up there, so hopefully you'll see it'll look longer. I'm going to go ahead and get this burlap piece glued down since I kind of have it spaced properly right now. With these oddly textured things, I do like to use my Tombow Mono Multi Glue because it's really strong. My glue tape I don't think would have held the burlap down, so that's why I just went with that glue instead. But again, just trying to make sure my spacing is right to get the burlap down, and then I'll just worry about covering all the gaps of the burlap. But I already kind of know I have the layers I need to cover up all of those kind of awkward gaps there. But I wanted you to see kind of how I make one smaller piece look bigger, because sometimes that can make people get stuck and lose their mojo too if they feel like they don't have the size papers that they want to use. Sometimes you can cheat the system and make them look bigger. So I'm getting all this glued down there. Now my gaps are all covered. Now that burlap looks a little bit bigger than it was. Hopefully that reads as one piece, even though you can see how much of it is actually missing behind my photo layer. But no one will know except for you guys once I get this all glued together. And now that all those layers are down, I'm gluing them to the background. I do end up pulling all of this off again because as I get going, I love this text background. It's really cool. I mentioned when I pulled it together, it wasn't something I usually would go to, especially for a background paper because it can read busy. But I think it's really cool with all these textures and these bold pops of colors on top of it. So I think there's a lot of text still down the left side of the page I want to kind of cover up a little bit more. So long story short, I'll pull all of this off again to do something to the background. But for now, I just want to focus on getting that horizontal element I wanted down. I really wanted to use this ribbon from Ronnie. I think it's so cool. It just adds another texture, and it's a beautiful color that goes with my color scheme. So I'm just going to trim that up and have that as a nice horizontal element beneath my photo. And then I just took a scrap from the floral banner that went behind my thankful sentiment, And I'm going to trim that into a fishtail banner and have that coming out horizontally too. So that pattern is a little bit balanced. That banner is kind of, you know, replicated. And I think that looks nice too. So now I'm looking at embellishment. I definitely want to get these little crochet heart or flowers on here. So I like that positioning there, how it kind of frames my photos a little bit. I definitely want to get one of the cross sections of the wood slice as well. But I'm kind of looking, and as I'm trying to get my embellishment together, this is where I kind of realize I really want to do something to the background, and I keep referring to my mood board that I have sitting next to me. That's another thing. You can use your mood board just to get started and then never look at it again if that helps you start. But a lot of times when I'm doing a mood board inspired layout, I like to keep it next to me, and if I'm stuck, I'll just look back at it to try and see what other element from my mood board can I pull in. And I'm in love with that that artistic poured painted piece. It's beautiful, and I really wanted to try and replicate it. So here I am. I put a trash bag down on my mat and a bunch of acrylic paints, and I'm going to try and create that. It didn't turn out in my head how I wanted it to, but I think it ends up looking really, really cool. So I pulled in kind of this minty greeny blue, I pulled in this corally pinky orange, and then I actually had a glittery teal that really reminded me of the teal in the mood boards. So you'll just see me, I'm taking the end of my toothbrush, I'm not even using paintbrush. I'm using, I guess you could have used it, the painted brush side. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I did just use the end of it. I don't know why. I guess I thought it would maybe drip off easier because I wanted to look very like I flung the paint across the page, but it didn't really work out, so I had to draw it on with the edge of the paintbrush. But this is one of the things that, like, I would not have done this in a million years if I hadn't had this mood board that inspired me to do it, and I think it turned out just so cool. So I'm on my last color here. Here's the glittery teal, and I'm just trying to make sure as I do this that the colors are kind of balanced, and they're where I want. I'm kind of breaking up the other colors and everywhere I'm putting this, it's kind of even across the page. But I think this looks really, really cool. So I'm gonna let that dry, and here we cut and I put everything back on. I did lose a little bit of footage. I did find some Heidi Swap enamel shapes that are that glittery teal color, so I did just add them with those crochet flowers. And I think those look really cute in both of those clusters because it pulls that glittery paint in that I used. But yeah, I am really in love with that paint effect, and I think it kind of covers up a little bit more of that text, so it's just not all this black and white text down the side. It pulls that color over there. But I love how that was inspired by the mood board. And now I just want my title. I just want something simple. I'm using these white thickers that my mom got me for my birthday. Thank you, Mom. I love you. Yeah, they are amazing and they fit perfect there. So I'm just spelling out Thanksgiving. And then I wanted to use this wood slice for sure. And a bunch of it was going to be covered. And I love these wood slices that Ronnie has already kind of inked for me, so I'm gonna save that one corner for another page when maybe I use that other little one. But I loved how that was tucked in the corner there, and now I'm just going to spell out my title. My title ends up running off of the burlap into some open area underneath the ribbon, so I do end up adding another banner made of paper so that this title can kind of sit on something as it runs off the edge and it isn't just hanging onto the white and black background. I thought about pulling in a coral piece, but that coral is just a little bit different than the other coral I was using, so I ended up using the back side of that scrap, which is again in my greeny blue color scheme. So I'm just going to tuck that in underneath there. This is a really good thing to do if you're stuck. Like, just layer a bunch of banners together, and it always kind of comes out cool. So there is that. I'm going to finish up my title here. I really don't need any journaling just because it's pretty self-explanatory. It's Thanksgiving. These are our group shots. And I think our close-ups are here in a little bit. But I really hope this was helpful as far as using a mood board to kind of get you out of a jam. I'm really excited about this series. So stay tuned for my other prompts that I have coming up this month. This is the first one, and I'm so pleased with how it turned out. I really hope it helps you with finding your mojo. Thanks, guys, for watching. Bye.